Hey, John.
Hello, how are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us today. I'm with John Walsh, President and CEO of Michigan Manufacturers Association. We're an active member in MMA. How are you doing today?
Doing great, and thank you for this opportunity to have the conversation. Enjoy being with you this morning.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, as you know, we celebrate and lean into our company, our grit. We have to work hard every day to prove ourselves and to make things happen every day. Uh, how do you define grit, John?
So, grit, I think, is another phrase, stick-to-itiveness. Have your plan and execute. But there's something, grit is more emotional. So you have your plan, you have your business, but you fight for it. You move it forward. You're committed to it. So that lots of words to say stick to itiveness. You're on the job and you stay focused.
So owning it seems
Yeah.
to be where
Yeah.
you're at. Owning that plan, working that plan. Can you share an example of maybe where one of your members had to lean into their grit or use
Mhm.
their personal grit to get something completed or be successful?
So in manufacturing, this would be writ large for all of our members. Manufacturing, engineering, making things, they're all solving problems. And every problem is unique and it requires grit every single day. The There's rarely relief, meaning you solve the problem and you find another one. What's
Mhm.
unique about manufacturers is they might tell you they don't like it, but they love it. Solving problems using their grit is what helps us grow and move forward. I see it every day in our membership.
So stamina, creativity,
Absolutely.
and owning it.
Yes,
seems to
absolutely.
seems to be that uh, we see that every day in decision making. It comes down to that having to make that difficult decision that you did with the data that you have, and then
Mhm.
maybe it also might be revising your plan or updating your plan as you need to, because on a daily basis things are going to change along the lines. You've been working hard with our as a member. We know you've been working hard on the tariff questions and things like
Mhm.
that. But that
Mhm.
uncertainty, you're going to need more of your personal grit to survive that uncertainty.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the uncertainty specific to tariffs, that's been a huge challenge because no matter how creative you are, no matter how committed you are, the constantly changing tariffs are beyond your control. So even the most informed, the most prepared, the most committed can have, they might make a pivot, they might make a decision, but within a day or a week, something has changed and they have to immediately react to that. So the uncertainty is probably the biggest challenge I've seen to our industry. We are seeing a few members getting business as a result. Others are finally making a decision. At this point, it's been since April, and they're just saying, I have to move forward, and these are the following things I'm going to do, and hoping that there isn't a change in the new tariff structure. The other item that keeps them driving is if the true goal for, I think, the Trump administration, but I know it for our members, is they want open and free trade. And so the difficulty right now, the uncertainty is tough, but should we have success with individual companies or areas of the world, I think that means a lot for our industry and for the future. So when I talk to folks, they're nervous. They're holding up on hiring folks. They're holding up on making investments for the moment, but they're also hoping that we can get a few more deals structured at the federal level, and then they'll go all in.
So it's, once again, it's relying on our optimism, our individual
Oh,
optimism,
absolutely.
our team's optimism about
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
future, despite those challenges and those unknowns.
It's true.
Despite that uncertainty.
It's, even for, now there's a few companies that are really in very difficult positions, but even there, hope carries them. They've been through horrible circumstances, 9/11. the COVID, supply chain disruptions, and they've made it. They're proud that they made it, and they'll make it this time. But it's how they feel and their plan, their business plan, that'll get them through.
Right. We've had some changes in the solar industry, specifically with our expectation of our solar tax credit expiring.
Mhm.
Manufacturers in Michigan have adopted solar PV to lower their operating costs. They do this on a daily basis. They understand this is an energy hedge, being able to lock in a fixed price of electricity versus having to
Mhm.
go to a utility based escalating market. But that uncertainty, that change that we're seeing here, how do you think that's impacting MMA members? Are they taking advantage of the expiring tax credit? Do they need more information? Why don't we see another rush to make this choice between now and the end of the expiration middle of July?
This is, I've not had that conversation with an individual member or members as to why they're not rushing to take advantage of this, but I will tell you, getting the word out is important. There are so many things underway at the moment, not just tariffs, taxes, regulations, so on and so forth. But I am seeing greater and greater receptivity in the manufacturing industry. People thinking ahead again, that plan and how do we do better? So working with you and doing a podcast like this and getting out the word through our social and traditional media channels is where I think we can help and try and get folks aware that if you're thinking about it, or even if you're not thinking about it, there's a great deal on the table and it's going to expire pretty soon. So getting you got to get people just to lift their head up for a second to think about it.
Yeah, we appreciate the association and everything they do for the communication that we receive every day. It's a very vital organization with you and your team. I love being part of it. It's the future of energy and manufacturing in Michigan.
Mhm.
It's difficult today to say predict the next 5 to 10 years. What would you say, as it relates to energy, are going to be some of the pain points that we might be feeling, and why we'd be feeling them in the next 5 to 10 years for
Mhm.
energy and manufacturing?
So I think from a commercial and private industry standard, there are a lot of good things happening. Solar companies, traditional companies, other alternative energy companies are all working to build out their infrastructures and their customer base. And I'm a big believer in the open and free market, and I'm seeing it work. That's the upside. What I fear most is federal and state regulations. With all due respect to elected officials, the attempt to manipulate the use of energy for reasons unrelated to the use of that energy is troublesome. Somebody could find themselves in trouble because they're making use of a particular energy product, but that might run afoul of a law that was passed, based on science or not, doesn't matter, without taking into account the impact on industry or individuals. So with that, again, I believe so in our truly believe in our democracy. I truly believe in our capitalistic form of government. In time, our economy. In time, I think the private sector will win out. Companies are making smart decisions for the future, and they'll keep doing that. And our role is just to make sure that all forms of energy are available to our members and their employees, at their homes. That's what will win. There's a little bit of a sea change. Folks are realizing that sometimes a piece of paper, a law that was passed, well-intentioned, needs to be tuned up. Despite a lot of rancor more at the federal level, I do see willingness at the state level to work more in a more engaged manner to get things done. So again, I'm using lots of words, and I apologize for that. The bottom line is I'm hopeful. There's a lot of private and public sector folks realizing that if we're not careful, we could blow our access to reliable, affordable, efficient energy.
Right. So you're saying that today, based on a supply and demand marketplace, based on a free trade marketplace, maybe even a global free trade marketplace, we'd
Mhm.
be able to
Yeah.
see the winner would be the most economical choices versus something that would necessarily be a winners be chosen for us. But
Mhm.
to this end, the manufacturers that we're working with to lower their operating costs, they're doing that to maximize that tax credit. That tax credit, as you know, it
Mhm.
starts at 30%, but you could add it up to 40%, 50% with the different adders. And then we may not know that they increase the bonus depreciation. It's a 100% depreciation year one. So that if you take the cash difference from that depreciation, you take, say, even the 40, 50% tax credit, you're looking at a 60 to 75% of the net cost of solar is paid for by those tax credits and the cash difference of your depreciation. So if you're left with a 25% capex of your total project cost, that in and of itself will be the wind under the wings of the economic payback.
Yeah, and I have to confess, I didn't know about that 100% upfront. The rest I was familiar. That's huge. That in and of itself should drive folks that are already thinking about it or to move forward or to attract people that haven't really given it much thought. That's a big, big impact.
You are correct. It's one of those funny things where it's hard to yell pretty loud about the bonus depreciation and have people like want to see the band as they walk through. But
Yeah.
no, it's true. I think that is one of the things that if you get to the right receiver, the CFO, or I often say the guy
Mhm.
writing the check for the electric bill, they might be able to
Mhm.
hear that a little bit better. So one of the things that as we were talking about grit and what's driving us today is that in order for a prospective customer or manufacturer in Michigan to take advantage of that tax credit, they have to get into IRS safe harbor. IRS safe harbor is 5% down payment and a signed agreement. That secures the tax credit even after the tax credit expires. So that urgency, that's going to come it's going to come now before the end of the year, and then we have some 2026 compliance to work with, and maybe by May 1st it's about the end of the ability to get that safe harbor here in the USA. So that's the urgency we're talking about,
Mhm.
is getting in with your down payment and your signed agreement, and that assures you that your tax credit is secure. A lot of folks don't know about safe harbor.
Mhm.
Have you guys heard about that before?
Yeah, we have, and so but it's still a time crunch, as you know. But at least you have the opportunity to make a commitment, protect yourself, and then move forward. So if you're building your budget for next year, you can protect yourself in the safe harbor and get moving
Exactly.
when your next budget year is underway.
Exactly. That puts you in a place, if you're able to safe harbor today, you have no
Mhm.
deadline for placed in service. It's
Yeah, I think it's a great
one
feature.
of the upsides of the how it is positioned. Well, to kind of wrap up today, if you were going to be advising a member about how they might utilize their own grit to get through the
Mhm.
future, the uncertainty, remain optimistic, what is your recommendation today? How are they going to lean into their own grit today?
It's relying on your team, your data. You touched on data earlier. Relying on that data, making decisions as best you can based on those two items, and your customers, of course, what effect it will have on it, and remain confident. This is a very difficult time because of the uncertainty, but we have been through these before, and we've successfully um, gotten through them moving forward. So stay at it, keep your grit, keep your focus.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Much appreciate your time today and being with us to talk about grit and energy. And we look forward to continue being an active member of Michigan Manufacturers.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, John. See you later.